And good evening, lunatics. This is episode 236. I'm going to give you a wrap up from the truck show. Man, we had a good time. Uh, I figured out pretty quick that I'm going to have to go to the gym and lose some weight because I was my everything hurt from the hair on my head to my toenails. Just everything hurt from walking around there for 3 days. So I'm just going to give you a kind of recap of what we did. I drove over there Wednesday. Blake flew in, and we went and had dinner with all the MD alignment people. So Rocky, Chad from Arizona, um, Kevin, Mike's son from MD alignment came down. They rented this massive house downtown, like a Victorian mansion. So we went and had dinner with those folks. Got to hang out with them most of the evening. That was a blast. And then Thursday's the VIP deal. So Kevin Rutherford was having his CMC Wednesday morning and Thursday morning, and so we had a couple of people that had gone out there for that. So Thursday we rolled in, went to the Landstar room, got some free breakfast, hung out there, shook some hands and kissed some babies in there, and then just started walking the show. You have to pay extra. Like the show's free, pretty much, to go Friday and Saturday, but you got to pay extra to do the VIP thing. So we did that on Thursday. Had a good time. I hung out with some Kentucky State Troopers. They've got this massive like air brake system on these vertical boards, and it's a really good example. I gotta let this dog out. Come on, dummy. Come on, go. As I was saying, the Kentucky State Troopers are there, and they have this huge air brake. It's got like 8 chambers, eight brake chambers for drives, and then the steers, and it's set up to do ABS. Part of it wasn't working right, but the trooper was pretty cool that was doing this. So we talked to him for a while. Gosh, what else did we see on Thursday? Thursday's it's kind of a throwaway day because you're not really in a rush to get anywhere, and so what do we do Thursday evening? Oh, Thursday evening we had dinner with an A&E team, Jack and Danielle. They've become good friends, so we got to hang out with them on Thursday evening. And then Friday, gosh, it's all such a blur. Friday is when more people start showing up and the things start getting more crowded. We walked, and this year it was cool because in years past, they would put people like Pittsburgh Power and MD Alignment over in the West Wing, and so you had to walk around Freedom Hall. Well, that's, I guess, being remodeled. So they put the whole show in the North and South Wing, which I hope they continue to do because that was so much better experience. So we got to hang out with Pittsburgh Power. We've got exciting news coming there. I met Chris from Hauling Assets. Got to hang out with him for a little while. We share an audience pretty much, and so we talked about some future endeavors. Maybe getting together on some stuff. Michael Lombard from Truck Parking Club. Got to talk to him for a little bit. Got to hang out with Super Trucker Justin Martin. We had some conversations with Kevin Rutherford and his people. What the hell was that? I've got TikTok going over here on the other side, and I just saw myself in a cowboy hat, and I wasn't ready for it. Let's see here. Then Friday night, we went to a launch party for TCS blockchain, which was very cool. Um, that was I've never been to one of those, and it was a place called the Last Refuge downtown. So we get out of the Uber, and I've got a block building on my left and a church on the right. I'm looking around and I'm going, okay, well, this is the address. Where's this bar? Well, the church is the bar. It started out as a church in like the 1800s. And so they've turned it into a bar, and which is quite comical. And so they had this jazz quartet in there. And so we met with a lot of those people. There were people there from INX. Um, INX, which is an exchange, and I'll get more into this in detail in a little bit. But INX, Bulla Network, TCS blockchain, because they were doing this launch because they ran the first settlement invoice on blockchain on Friday or Thursday. I guess it was Friday. So we had the launch party. Um, so that was cool. And if you ever get a chance to downtown Louisville, go to the Last Refuge because the Meet Jesus, the Meet Jesus is pizzas, fantastic. So we did that Friday night, and then Saturday we went in. Blake had to leave because he had to fly home, and I was invited to be on the TCS blockchain panel from 10:45 to 11:45 on the Pro Talk stage. And we finally remembered that. So Todd Ziegler is the CEO of TCS Blockchain. Well, his dad lives in the same building as Bruce Mallinson from Pittsburgh Power. And I guess it was last year at the show, Bill, one of Bruce's guys, was like, "Hey, this friend of ours is all into this crypto blockchain stuff. Would you be interested in talking to him?" And I'm like, "Well, absolutely." So we interviewed him on the podcast, I guess last year sometime. It's all blur. But I was really intrigued with what I heard because when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency, there's a lot of craziness going on, a lot of get rich quick stuff. We interviewed the Lane Axis guy probably 3 years ago, but there was fundamental problems with the kind of principle there because blockchain is a decentralizing force. Blockchain is something that will do away with intermediaries, not create more of them. And so there's other people that have been talking about bringing blockchain into the industry, and I just wasn't by it. Well, then I met Todd, and I'm like, okay, this guy actually understands not only what blockchain is and what it should be, and the services that it can provide, the problems that it can solve. And so that's what really got me interested in partnering with TCS. And so they brought me on the stage as kind of the representative of the trucking industry. And so we were up there for an hour. And we talked about what we're trying to do, what they're trying to do. And that is get rid of or replace factoring. Factoring is a huge, huge problem. I understand why people do it. I would not do it. I would not factor because you get into these contracts you can't get out of. For example, I had always heard that if you previously had your own authority and you wanted to lease a truck on the Landstar, that there was some kind of extra hoops that you had to jump through. And I never really understood it. Well, I was talking to somebody at the show, And what I found out was, and it makes total sense, if you have your own authority and you decide you don't want to do that anymore and you want to go lease to a carrier, then that carrier has to make sure that you have not signed your accounts receivable away to a factoring company. Because if you have signed one of these exclusive contracts with a factoring company, then by the terms of that contract, Landstar would have to pay that factoring company because they own you now. You sold yourself to that factoring company. And people are like, "Oh, it's only 2 or 3%." Yeah, a month, but that's a 24 to 36% annual interest rate, and nobody thinks about that. And so, I mean, would you run your business on 36% credit cards? No, you wouldn't. That's crazy. So what TCS can do is settle your invoices on blockchain for 1% or less. Right now it's 1%. And as it scales, they plan on it being zero. So you can, and it's non-exclusive. You can do one invoice or you can do them all, right? And one big part of me being there was to say, hey, I chose to lease my trucks to a carrier to avoid having to factor, to avoid having to bill and wait 30, 60, 90 days to get paid, and then all of the risk that comes with trying to carry my own insurance. And so that was a huge part of why I chose to be with the carrier. Now, if we get everything running on blockchain and I can process a 30 or 60 or 90-day invoice on chain for no fee and then immediately turn it into dollars in less than 24 hours, it would be more tempting for me to do that, to come out from under the protective umbrella of Landstar. But as of now, what the industry has to offer, is basically the factoring company building keeps getting taller and taller and taller, and your bank account keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're making out like bandits. I just saw somebody in the TikTok comments, should I get a business loan to buy a semi? Good God, no. No, you should pay cash for a truck. You don't need to get a loan to buy a truck. Someone's like, why won't you answer the comments? Well, I'll get to them when I get to them. Fleet owner and interested to add trucks with Landstar out of Canada. I don't think I would do that. I don't know much about Canada. I'm going to reach out. I want to try to connect with some Canadian BCOs because I'd like to hear. I've only met one Canadian BCO and he was starving to death, and that was 10 years ago. Bray Taylor asked, how about Larry Long? Well, Larry's retired. He sold the company. He's doing well, but he's no longer involved in the day-to-day operations of the company. So what I'm interested in, I mean, obviously back to TCS blockchain, obviously the short-term gain that we can get away from these factoring companies. If all TCS and other technologies that will come along, other tokens and other blockchains, if all it did was solve the settlement issue and keep owner operators, which are the majority of the trucks on the road, by the way, and keep them from having to get in bed with these factoring companies, if that's all it did, that would be enough. That would be revolutionary right there. What it's going to do long term is let's start at the baseline. Okay, 927 JEO. I'm still very confused on blockchain with trucking. Okay, well, let's go to the basics. Okay, all a blockchain is, it's a public ledger, it's a public database, and it is immutable. All right, and the word immutable basically means it cannot be changed. So you have, let's imagine, blocks of information in a chain. Okay, well, once you put a block of information in and a block behind it and a block behind it and a block behind it. In order to change this block, you have to change all of these. So it locks the information in there. And it is a very, very safe way to record transactions. Okay. Well, what are transactions? Well, it could be a freight bill, it could be an invoice, it could be a bill of lading, could be a financial transaction. So, so all blockchain is a public database, a public ledger that allows people to make exchanges in a very public and open but very secure way. There's no, with a blockchain, there's no one central place where the information is held, like at these big banks and credit card companies now, that are always getting hacked, and they say, oh, your information's at risk. Well, that's because all the information is one place. So if the bad guys want to go, well, they just go to that one location. Well, with blockchain, the information is everywhere all the time. And blockchain uses nodes, NODES, nodes. Well, the nodes are everywhere. And so blockchain is nearly unhackable. And so that's the first part. It's secure. It's a secure way to move information and record transactions. Okay. Well, here in the trucking world, where everything is it's decentralized, but it's these pockets of centralized information, and everybody's got their own TMS, and everybody's got their own thing, and big carriers have got their big hub of information, and this guy's got their hub of information, and DAT and Truck Stop and all these different companies. Well, blockchain can, I'm going to use a big word here, can disintermediate. Okay, blockchain can get rid of a bunch of the intermediaries. Now, where that is very important is getting rid of the identity problems that we have and the double brokering and the chameleon carriers. All right. When, not if. This is not a if this happens. It's a when it happens. When this industry moves to conducting our transactions, and what are our transactions? They're freight bills, right? They're invoices. When we go to conducting that business on blockchain, all of this, well, we don't really know who the guy is. Well, we'll know now, because that information, again, is going to be locked into that chain. And so if you were DOT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yesterday, well, you can't be T2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tomorrow. You're locked in. So first of all, aside from the settlement issue of just being able to get you settled quickly and not have to wait days and days and days to get paid, if you can't bill the customer immediately and it's not a direct relationship and they want 30-day terms or 60-day terms or 90-day terms, well, we can move that. We can basically kind of take that transaction. We can set it up on the chain, and then you can turn that token immediately into dollars, or you can leave it in tokens. You could convert it to Bitcoin or Ethereum or one of the other 1,000 currencies. And so it's a revolution that has taken a very long time to get here. The blockchain was pretty much invented, if you will, with the white paper in 2008. You should go read that white paper. It's very simple. It's not difficult to understand. It talks about why blockchain was created and what its purpose was, what it needed, what problems we needed to solve. And this came out of the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. And so this is a technology that the trucking industry can use to get rid of the double brokers and the chameleon carriers. We can process transactions instantly for almost nothing. And then we can also provide a record of service. What do we have now? Well, Carrier 411 and all these other things that we're trying to use to verify identities and to verify service records. I had a truck break a tie rod yesterday in downtown Dallas. So I went to Google, right? First, I had to find somebody. And so I went to where the truck was on the map and I Googled mobile truck repair. And a couple of places came up and I went through their Google reviews, right? Because you're going to find something there. Now, generally speaking, people that are happy don't talk much, but the people that are mad do. Well, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Amazon reviews, eBay reviews are always very slanted. You don't know if somebody was paid to give a good review of that product. Um, but you have to grade it on a curve because you know that people that are happy are not going to take the time to leave a good review. So reviews are going to be slanted negative. And then you try to have to, use discernment to say, okay, well, here's a negative review and what does it say? And okay, well, you think that really happened? So I ended up finding a good guy. By the way, shout out 24/7 diesel repair in Dallas. They came quickly, efficiently. Uh, a new tie rod assembly at the dealership was $9.95. They came to the side of the road, put a new tie rod assembly on it, and got it rolling for $11.50. I'm gonna call that a win. Um, but you just don't know, right? So what blockchain can do in that aspect is it can record all of those interactions in a much more transparent way, in a much more secure way, which means if you are a fantastic service provider, that information is going to follow you. Likewise, if you're a dirtbag and you suck, that stain is going to be on you. And it's going to be very, very clear and apparent that you are a scumbag, that you don't deliver on time, that you have damage claims. You're not going to be able to hide and just peel the DOT number off the side of your truck, put another number on there, and then hide your stink under a new DOT number. So for me, that's the most exciting part of having this technology now available. And the great thing about it is there's not one blockchain. There's not one token. There's not one currency. Now I'm going to try not to get too deep in the woods here, okay? But I just want to go on record and say this part so that everybody hears it, okay? There's a difference between currency and money. All right? Money is a means of exchange. Currency is different. So pretty much throughout all of human history, where there has been civilization, currencies have been created and managed by a state or a central bank. In the United States, that's called the Federal Reserve. Okay, so they'll decide, oh, we don't have enough currency, so let's push a button and we'll just make more. Okay, well, all right, good, you made more. Well, by making more, you have made all of the other dollars or other units of currency worth less than they were before you pressed a button and made the money printer start spinning. This is called inflation. We're all familiar with inflation, right? Now, little sidebar, I was yelling from the rooftops back in 2020 as they were spending and spending and spending and printing and printing and printing. Inflation's going to be a problem in 4 or 5 years, and here we are. Okay, so anybody with a very basic understanding of monetary understanding and finance knew that we were going to see massive inflation. And here it is. We're now experiencing this massive inflation. Well, current cryptocurrencies are created by the activity that happens on the chain. Okay. So let's take TCS, Truck Coin Swap. Let's take that for example. There's only going to ever be, so many that there's going to be a finite number of those available. And more coins are created by more activity. So think of it like mining for gold. In order to get gold, there has to be a lot of physical labor that goes into it. And it's a lot of labor for a little bit of return. But because what you have is finite and precious metals, you get a lot for a little. So if you'll think about, let's think about an invoice. Okay. You haul a load on Monday, the first of the month. Here today, it's April 1st. You haul a load today on April 1st. And the shipper says, okay, I want 60 days before I pay you. All right. So April, May, June. They want to pay you on June 1st for a load that you hauled on April 1st. Well, you had to come out of pocket to pay for the fuel, any maintenance issues, insurance, all of the everything that it requires to move a truck, the driver. Well, you got to pay everything today, but you're not going to get paid for 60 days. Well, in an environment like we're in now, where we have a weakening currency unit called the US dollar, then the let's say we're going to do the load today for $3,000, okay, and they're going to pay us $3,000 in 60 days. Well, that $3,000 in 60 days is not worth $3,000. It's worth some fraction of $3,000 because the value of that unit of currency is going down. Now, is it going down a lot? No, it might be 2,999.2. Okay, but it's going down in value. Well, when we start running the massive amounts of invoices that are the potential to be run on chain, then that cryptocurrency, that token, is going to be going up in value. Okay, so if you didn't need all of the value, let's say you had a $3,000 load. There's, let's just say 50%. There's $1,500 in costs. Okay, well I'm gonna recoup right now the $1,500 in costs, and I'm gonna grab it in US dollars today, but I'm gonna leave $1,500 up there on the chain. Well, that's going to increase in value, right? You could exchange it for other coins. You could do speculation. You could do investing. You could do other things with it because your invoice has now become a token on the blockchain, and that has a value. You could put in other stable coins. A stable coin is just a unit of cryptocurrency that is pegged to the dollar, right? So it's whatever the dollar's worth, that's what it's going to be worth, right? So you could use stable coins, but you could maybe find other currencies and other markets and other industries. So, will it take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? I don't know. I'm 49. Will I ever live to see where we're headed with this? I think so, right? And I'm going to go back and use the example of the iPhone. The iPhone was introduced in 2007. I knew a guy that bought the very first one, right? And the very first one was like $650. This was in 2007. This was 18 years ago. So he pays like $650. It was only on AT&T. It didn't have at the time what we called 3G service, right? And I remember seeing a commercial about it. I didn't see the keynote until years later that introduced it. They should have just played that shit on the TV. That would have made a whole lot more sense. But anyway, I saw a commercial about it, and I heard, Apple's coming out with a phone. And then this guy I knew, his name was Jeff, he bought one. And I said these words: "That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Nobody needs a phone that will do all of that. I've got a Motorola Razor, and it's awesome." I said that out loud where people could hear me. Within 2 years, the entire world was changed by the introduction of that product. Another 2 or 3 years, and the world is revolutionized again. Now, have we kind of hit a plateau there as far as world changing disruptive technologies? We're probably at a plateau right now. There's really nothing coming that's going to just turn the world upside down like the iPhone did. And the Android with it, for you Android fanboys. I'll judge you by the quantity of your character, not the color of your text. But from 2007 to 2010, the way the world communicated, the way the world shopped, the way the world learned, the way the world was entertained was completely turned upside down by by this device. Here's a good comment: AI is more disruptive. I agree. AI is fascinating. No, but I can't with AI. I can't really. I haven't pointed. I haven't been able to really point and say, okay, oh, there it is. It's going to do massive things, and maybe it's a combination. Excuse me. Maybe it's a combination of AI, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies. But for the trucking industry, and we are the perfect proving ground for this technology because trucking's a mess, right? At that at that launch party Friday night, y'all can probably imagine that with CEOs, and then I'm kind of the oddball, if you will. And I was talking to these ladies, and they're peppering me with questions because everybody's like, truck driver. And I said, look, if y'all could see the trucking industry through my eyes, you would not so confidently press that button on Amazon for 2-day delivery. Now, I know it's going to happen, and it's going to come, and it's going to get there. But if you could see from this side of the fence, to me, it's a miracle from heaven that anything gets delivered. It really is. I mean, if you think about the amount of blind trust that people have to put into other human beings and other organizations and businesses, it's crazy. Okay. And I use this example. I said, look, in the trucking industry for the last 50 years or so, we have been polishing a turd. Now, look, the turd is shiny, and it doesn't stink all that bad, but it's a turd. The way that we do business, the way that we transact value, the way that we exchange in this business is absolute literal dog shit. It just is. We've made it work. We've made it work. I told some people in 2020, I was with a group of people, and I said, from 1997 when I joined the industry until 2020, I watched as we kind of built this very finely tuned machine, and we came up with just in time, JIT. Where people would be manufacturing things and put them on a trailer, and we had it down to a science to where a trailer could bump a dock and the product could come off of that trailer and roll right into an assembly line just like clockwork. And y'all burned it to the ground in less than 2 weeks for toilet paper. Toilet paper. Not baby formula, not water, not food, not not life-sustaining products, toilet paper. Y'all brought basically the global transportation system to its knees over toilet paper. Wow. Flashbacks. So, and let's not forget, and maybe it's not something we need to forget, maybe it's something we need to learn. Okay. 93% of the trucks that are the backbone of the American economy, and really the global economy, if you think about it, are owned by companies with 5 trucks or less. 93%. A massive percentage, and I don't really know how to calculate it exactly, but it's a huge percentage of that 93% are single truck owner operators. Okay? So the backbone of the global first world economy runs on the back of small businesses with one truck and one trailer and one guy. Now, you look at the ocean, it's completely different. There's like 2 companies or 3 companies that own all of the ships. It's the 100%, 180 degrees opposite. But the American trucking industry, thanks to the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, by the way, rides on the back of American small businesses. And these American small businesses are being crushed by factoring companies, banks, leasing companies, 3PLs. Um, I mean, if you're factoring your invoices, you're giving away 36% annually. That's insane. That's insane. And listen, I don't want to hear y'all, oh, you give Landstar all your money. Yeah. While you're factoring at 36% annualized interest rate. I okay. It's like what's amazing to me, trucking's hard enough as it is. Okay, company driver, owner operator, whatever. Trucking is hard enough as it is. Being an owner operator, hard enough as it is. Being an owner operator and having your own authority is hard enough as it is. And we're going to lay on top of that thousands of dollars a month in truck payments that are unnecessary, thousands of dollars of trailer payments that are unnecessary, um, insurance, regulation, and then we're going to factor and give even more money away to where damn near working for free. Now, a lot of this, and here you go, Stinkin' Dinkins. What a username, brother. What's the answer? How do we fix this? Well, one, we have to make uncomfortable choices. Okay. I had to make an uncomfortable choice April 7th of 2017 because my truck broke and I was broke and I didn't have money to fix it. Right. So what's the first thing I did? Went and got a job. Within 7 days of my truck blowing up, my truck blew up on the 7th of April, and on the 17th of April, I was in orientation at Swift. There's a good place to go when you're broke, and that's to work. And I lasted 30 days. I drove for Swift for 30 days and lived to tell about it. Then I went home and got a job because I had shit to deal with at home. Okay. And then I had an epiphany in January of 2018. And I went, you know what? This was all my fault. I mean, I had all the power. I had all the power. I was the decision maker. And then I said that out loud. And when I said that out loud, Larry came along and extended a hand and gave me an opportunity. He just opened the door and I walked through it and I worked like an animal. Okay. So first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to look around and say, okay, I have built a house of cards around me that is about to fall in on my head. And sometimes you just got to stop. Okay. We talked a lot with Landstar corporate people at the truck show because we're the mentoring fleet, right? We're the ones that try to help people, and of course they get calls from struggling BCOs all the time. They don't know what to tell them, and the problem is by the time they're kind of willing to swallow their pride and say I need help, they're circling the drain and there's no helping them. They're just it's like brother, you got to let it go. You got to let it go and you got to start over. Okay. Well, I did that and it sucked. It was awful. My house almost got foreclosed on. My vehicle almost got repossessed and I almost ended up divorced. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Okay. But sometimes you just got to go back to the basics. And maybe if you have walked too far down a path, maybe you got a truck with too big a truck payment, right? Maybe you made some unfortunate decisions along the way and you have to just stop, go back to zero. That's a possibility. But what I see the most, and this is going to hurt y'all's feelings, if you don't track every penny, now not your Snickers bar, not your cigarettes, right? But every business expense, okay? Y'all, you can do it with a notebook. It ain't got to be fancy. You can do it in a spreadsheet. You can do it in Kevin Rutherford's profit gauges. It's cheap and the user interface is super easy. Every penny. Because if you don't know exactly what your cost of operation is to the penny, you cannot make the appropriate decisions that you need to make because maybe you need to haul something today rather than sitting around. Right? Maybe you need to get a load in or on the trailer and get the hell down the road instead of sitting there like a princess. I'm not going to move for less than $3.50 a mile. Okay. Oh, okay. How about you just go to work? Okay. How about you cancel the vacation? Okay. Because a lot of times what I see is a good dose of revenue in 90 days can bring a business back from the brink of disaster. But where does revenue come from? It comes from you getting off your fat ass and going to work. That's where revenue comes from. It's about putting that big truck in gear, shutting that left door, foot on the gas, mouth shut, and go to work. That's usually what it takes. Okay. When I left this house in March of 2018 to go to work for Larry and come to work for Blue Ribbon, my cousin drove me to Indianapolis and dropped me off. He said, when are you going to be home? I said, brother, I don't know. Because going home was not an option. Now, caveat to that was I didn't know Larry Long from Adam. I mean, was he really who he said he was? All I knew was that if I got in his truck and did what I did in my truck at Landstar, and he paid me 25%, I was going to double my income and keep my house from getting foreclosed on. That's at minimum. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he had, I love telling this story. So he liked to put truck drivers on dedicated freight, as you could imagine, because if you put them on dedicated freight, you ain't got to mess with them. But I was not going to be a beggar because I'm like, brother, I'm coming to you. I'll do whatever you want me to do. So I was going to do this stupid FedEx thing. It was going to pay me $1,700-1,800 a week, which was going to revolutionize things here at the house. We did our little orientation at the hotel, and we're walking around Walmart, and he gets a phone call, and he looks at me, and he says, "Hey man, that FedEx thing I had for you just fell apart. I'm just going to have you around the board." And I said, "You bet your sweet ass, old man. Watch this." And I proceeded at 25% of line haul and accessorials. I made $90,000 as a company driver on a W-2. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 9 months. I made $10,000 a month. Okay. My old job, I made $800 a week. I went from 800 a week to 10,000 a month, like that. Now, why did that happen? The market was fantastic. I was experienced, and I was sure hell enough motivated because this house that I'm sitting in right now was about to be foreclosed on. They were coming. They were coming to get my house. So I didn't need a fire lit under this here ass. The fire was lit, and I was going to work. Larry opened the door, gives me the opportunity, and I take off. So there's a bunch of y'all, okay, and I am. This is something I'm 100% convinced of. There's a bunch of y'all looking at you both here, okay, because I got two things. There's a bunch of y'all that don't work enough, okay. You need to get off your ass and go to work. Oh, it's cheap freight. I don't care. I don't care. Get off your ass and go to work. Go to work. Right? My goal right now is $8,000 a week. If I hit $8,000 a week, everything works itself out, and we move on to the next week. Right? And then we move on to the next week, and then we move on to the next week. But there's just a bunch of y'all that are starving to death because you won't go to work. Go to work. Just get out there and go to work. Okay? If you're at Landstar, well, I can give you points and pointers and ways to look at what's on the board. But if you are going to sit in the truck stop and whine, just whine and whine and whine, and if you've got to lay wax paper across the seat to keep your candy ass from sticking to it, sell the truck. Sell the truck and go be a company driver. But go be a good company driver. Like, go to work there too. Right? Just go to work. If you'll just go to work, everything will work itself out. And then, you have to address your spending, because your spending is probably a problem too. Stinking says you have to calculate your loads differently in a bad market rather than having a rate per mile requirement. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. We started in 2018 when I came here, because this is something that I had developed as a BCO. I wanted $6,250 a week, $1,250 a day. If I got $1,250 a day, didn't matter. I mean, I can only drive so many miles in a day, right? This was 2017. If I did $1,250 every day, like, okay, that's going to make me enough money that I'm going to save for maintenance. I'm going to pay the bills. I'm going to be okay. So I came to Larry and I'm like, hey man, well, let's just do $1,250 a day. Well, my God, the market was on fire. I was doing $1,500 a day and $1,800 a day. Now we didn't really look at it by week then. So by the time 2020 begins, we're on a 6250. That was like, we would set that goal and say, okay, well, hey, we're going to do $1,250 a day. And 6250 a week. That punched all the buttons. Well, the market just went nuts. And then we moved it to 7, and then we moved it to 8. And by the end of 2020, we had moved the goalpost to 10,000, and we were blowing through it every week. I had a team that was doing 20 to 25,000 a week. 2022 was awesome. I missed 2022 because that was fun. We were having fun in trucking in 2020 and 21 and 22. We were having a ball, and we were going to the bank with wheelbarrows full of money. It was awesome. And of course, we had the same low cost of operation in 2020 and 21 and 22 that we have today. We didn't go out and go buy $200,000 trucks. We kept running the $10,000 trucks and making $10,000 and $12,000 a week. Well, we got to the end of 2022, and the market said, this will be no more. And so we dropped it down to 8. And we hit that goal about 85% of the time. Okay, well, what's 8,000 times 0.85 is 6,800. 6,800 at Landstar turns into about 4,896, 4,900. What just happened to my screen? Oh, good grief. TikTok being stupid. Okay, well, 4,896 real dollars times 50 weeks, because you're going to go to work. Y'all, it's $244,000. You got no insurance costs to speak of. You got a little piddly. You got what, $2,600 maybe in workers' comp and like $1,400 in bobtail. You almost have no expenses, like $150, $200 a week at that point. Pay your fuel bill. You ought to be making 150 grand clear net. So I guess this all started. With somebody asking the question, but look, would I rather operate in a market where I can fall off a log, make $5 a mile? Sure. Okay. But let's talk about specializing yourself. Okay. I've got a guy right now on one load that pays $9,150. Well, his week's covered, and that's on, if you include the deadhead, about 2,300 miles. All right. Next week, he's got one load that pays $14,400. So what's that? 23,000 in 2 weeks at Landstar, because Landstar sucks. Okay. Got a guy with a Conestoga. I've got him on a load right now. Where'd he go? Nope, that's not him. Where's him? What was I saying? 912. Okay, $3,734. Picked up this morning, delivers tomorrow. $714 miles. And then I got him one the next day, pays $1,850. So he's going to make $5,584 in 2 days. Now, I've got a guy on an $1,100 load, right? I've got one guy that's doing 3 drop and hook loads, 1,600, 1,368, and 1,300. Okay, well, that's 4,285 in 3 days. 4,285 divided by 3 is 1,428 minus 1,450. That's $21 a day under my goal. And the loads are dropping hooks, so we're not wasting time with all that. Matt GTP, I am not a broker. I have 10 trucks leased to Landstar. Now, has moving into platform and having flatbeds and Conestogas saved our business over the last 2 years? Absolutely. Absolutely. Scott, are those numbers after Landstar's cut? I do not calculate Landstar's cut. I calculate gross revenue, because if we're going to compare apples to apples, and let's say the customer pays $3,000, well, someone with their own MC has to pay their insurance out of that. I don't, right? Because I exchange for Landstar. They cover the cargo liability. My cargo liability is zero. So that's why I use the gross number, because if we're going to compare independent owner operator with an authority being leased to a carrier, well, we are both required to have cargo liability insurance. I just don't have to write a check for that. Okay. So anyway, and it's about 72% if you don't own a trailer. If you own a trailer, if you own, say, a flatbed, it's about 80% of the gross rate. If you own like a 4-axle flatbed, it would be another 2%. So would that be 82? So if you hear somebody, Landstar takes 35% of my money, they don't even know how the contract works, because it's not true. Landstar pays the truck 65%. They pay the trailer 8 to 10%. They pay the agent 7 to 9%. Okay. So um, it works out to be about 82 of the, or I'm sorry, 72 if you just have a tractor, then about 80 if you have your own truck and trailer. I do not recommend buying a van trailer. Don't do it because you lose out dropping hook freight and you're going to lose money. But a 53-foot flatbed is a money printing machine, as is a Conestoga. Conestoga, good God. So do people lease on to you? No, that's not how carrier works. Landstar is the carrier. We are leased to the carrier, and then our drivers that run our program. We have an 18-month program that teaches people business. So there's Landstar, and then there's us. We're leasing under their MC number, and then our employees are W-2 employees. We don't do any of that 1099 nonsense. Rod says, with my own van, works out to 77.8 pretty consistently. And listen, guys, the expenses for our company are pretty damn low when you compare. I mean, for 2024, I was looking at this today. I want to say our average cost per gallon of diesel was $3.12 last year, and our average cost per mile was 47 cents a mile. That's good, and the fuel mileage wasn't all that great. It was like the fleet average was like 6.7. I mean, if we turn that into 7.7, that 47 is going to turn into about 41, 42. But the point is, we're trying to get people to go to work. Recommend a step deck, Conestoga, or flatbed. I would recommend flatbed because if you think about it this way, a step deck is a more specialized trailer. Okay. And anytime you specialize, you lose a little bit of your ability to just haul regular freight. Okay. Let's take a van, for example. You take a van and let's say you put 150 blankets and a pallet jack and load bars and decking and a lift gate on it and belly boxes. Okay. Well, that opens the door for you to do some very specialized freight, which can pay incredibly, but you lose out on the ability to just throw a regular old 40,000 pound load in it, right? So the more you specialize, the more you increase the potential value, but you kind of take something off the table. So that's why I would start with a flatbed. And look, you can make enough. The $14,000 guys, 53-foot flatbed, and I think that's a legal load. That is a legal load because he's on an oversized load right now. It's paying $9,100. But the other load is a legal load, but it had to be team, right? So he's got his wife with him. So I would always start with a flatbed so you can develop your business. Phil has a extendable flatbed. I think it extends out to like 90 foot. Okay, well, obviously, for him to do loads that are that long, but his weight is so much that there's a lot of legal loads that he can't haul because they're too heavy, right? So, if he's got a 4-axle tractor, if he had a 4-axle like aluminum trailer, his overall weight would be low enough that he could haul, just throw some general freight on there, or he could be, 150 or whatever. He could be hundreds of thousands of pounds. Is it a good time to come in for owner operator? Yeah, if your truck's paid for. But the big problem with most people is they're too broke to buy a truck. So they go lease a truck or lease it from a carrier or go get some big bank loan. What I've got to get y'all to understand, you've got to understand this part. When you go from being a company driver to an employee, I'm sorry, when you go from being an employee to a business operator, you're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. You're going to make mistakes. The mistakes that I see people make because they've never been in business before, and you have to act different, you have to talk different, you have to drive different, you have to walk, everything has to be different than how you behaved as a company driver, as an employee. Well, it's a whole lot easier for you to weather the consequences that are going to come from those mistakes with a paid for truck than if you got $1,000 a week truck payment. Okay. Sean Money, can you work at Landstar of 1 year as a regional driver? Their thing is sleeper truck. I think it's 375 miles one direction in a sleeper truck. So depending on how you define regional, and really what it comes down to is what is the people that they call to qualify you. It depends on what they say. If they say, yeah, he went, 400 miles every day one way in a sleeper truck, you're probably going to qualify. Let me give you this example. In probably 2022, we had a guy reached out for an interview. He actually did a paid consultation. We haven't done one of those in a long time, but there's a thing on our website you can pay like $150 or something for a 30-minute consultation. So this guy pays for a consultation. And he says, man, found the podcast, really fired up. I want to be an owner operator. And we're like, great. Well, why don't you come do the program? Well, I don't have any driving experience. Okay. Like none? No, I've never driven a truck. Oh, okay. Well, I've got a bunch of money. Okay. All right. Money. You got money. Well, here's what, you paid money for our advice. So my advice to you is to go get your CDL and go get a company driver job for 1 year. And then we can put you in the program for 18 months. And 2.5 years, you take all your money that you've got and buy a truck. No. I don't want to do it that way. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Well, I'm just going to get my CDL. I'll just buy a truck and trailer, and I'll get my CDL, and then I'll get my MC and la 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 la, and you guys will train me. And I'm like, no, I don't think so, Bob. No, this would be great. This would be great. And he's like, what would it take? What would it take? And just off the cuff, I said $300,000. He said, what? I said, $300,000. Well, what do I need $300,000 for? And I said, well, you need $40,000 to buy a good truck, and we'll pay cash for that. And you need another $20,000 to get you a good trailer, so that's $60,000. Okay, with no experience, if you can find an underwriter that's not Stevie Wonder, you're going to have to pay probably $25,000 to $40,000 for insurance. Okay, so that gets us to the first 100. Okay, then you're going to have about 50 in a maintenance savings account. So now we're at 150. And then because you have no driving experience and you got a brand new MC number, we're not going to do factoring. We're not doing that at all because that's stupid. You're going to have to live for 6 months until your MC is old enough. We're not going to do the tricks, and we're not going to age the MC and all this insane, incoherent nonsense. And so you're going to have to wait 30, 60, 90 days to get paid, and you're not going to hardly make any money. So you got to be able to survive for 6 months. So there's the rest of the 150. So if you will put $300,000 into an escrow account that I manage, And then I will approve the truck that you buy, and I will approve the trailer that you buy, and we'll get you hooked up with somebody. Of course, I didn't know Redbeard at that time, um, but we'll have to find you some insurance, and then yeah, sure, let's do it. And as you probably will be shocked to learn, we never heard from him again. How to work with a new MC to secure a load. Um, you lease to a carrier and build up a business, and then you worry about getting an MC. Guys, think about it. I mean, I want you to think about this. I've been in this business for 27 years. 27, almost 28. I have been operating trucks for 10 years. I would not go get my own authority. I wouldn't do it. I would not leave Landstar in the current market environment. Now, a bunch of y'all haven't come in for, you didn't hear all the blockchain discussion. The things could be different in 5 years. That answer might change. But right now, today, in April of 2025, having been in this business for almost 28, let's see, would it be 1997? It'll be 28 years in like September. I would not go get my own MC, especially if you've never been in business before. You've got a lot to learn. You've got a lot of mistakes that you have got to suffer through. There's a bunch of stuff you got to learn the hard way. Dwayne, I got my own authority, my CDL 2.5 years ago, bought my own truck and trailer. All right, so here's an example of Dwayne, who is the exception, not the rule. I congratulate Dwayne, and I admire the hell out of Dwayne, because Dwayne has probably got to have an extra bump in the seat to carry around his big balls. Because what Dwayne did was risky, and it worked, and he probably worked his ass off. He probably worked like an animal while y'all were sitting around with your thumb up your butt. Dwayne was out working. Now, I didn't know Dwayne before 30 seconds ago, but I probably just nailed it. Big Dave, does Landstar have book it now loads on their board? Do you always have to speak to the agent? So there's one agency, that has their own kind of setup. It's not an official thing, but they'll post a board with a link, a load on the board, and have a link, and it says book it now, and you copy and paste that, and sometimes it works. I think that would be cool, but I like talking to the agent, right? Like, I like to know who I'm working with. And I mean, I've been here 10 years, and we'll book lots of loads with people I've never talked to before. Booked one today. It was a cold call. And he just called me. He's like, hey, I see your truck is here. And I'm like, yeah, we talked about it. So, I mean, I think the book it now thing would be option. Now, here's my book it now. I get a text. Hey, do you have a truck? I've got a load. And I'm like, yeah, book it. Right? But I've built relationships over 10 years that, like, I know, okay, well, we're going to Ohio, so I can call him, her, or him, or I'm going to Texas. Let me call such and such. Oh, we'll be in Kansas. Let me call her and see if she's got anything that maybe she's putting together. She hasn't put on the board yet. And I'll be like, hey, you got any of those preloaded trailers out of Kansas? Oh, yeah, we got one I'm getting ready to post. Oh, where's it going? Oh, it's going over here. Oh, I'd like to have that. Let's book it. Right? That just comes with experience. But I book a bunch of stuff that just pops up. I see it. And I'm like, yep, I want it. Boy, there was a big one today. And I was not fast enough. See, that's the other beautiful thing about Landstar, as opposed to like Mercer, for example. Let's say you go to day one orientation, all right, and you walk out and you got your fuel card, and you open up the board and you see a load and you call them and you beat me to it by 3 seconds, it's yours, right? I mean, there was some massive. Oh God, did it pay? I think it was like $10 a mile, and I didn't get there fast enough. My phone lit up. I went, holy shit! I hit the button. Ring, 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 ring. Voicemail. Yep, she gone because somebody beat me to it. I mean, that happens. Um, you all come in bald and naked when you get here, and you're instantly. This is something that Blake said. Blake's the new owner of Blue Ribbon, and he and I did a couple of episodes. And one thing now, he has been operating. Um, he's been operating an MC, or various companies for years. Okay, I got to pause. I got a driver just texted me with a problem. Let me see here. There's no one here for me to do a drop and hook. Waiting on the transfer an agent. Where are you at? Florence. Okay. Give her a call. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Blake. All of this, all of these shortcuts that y'all listen to these gurus on TikTok and YouTube about how to age your authority and all the tips and tricks. Y'all, none of that is necessary. And you don't have to come to Landstar. You could go to other carriers. And on day one, you got insurance, you got plates, you got everything you need. Day one. You don't have to jump through these hoops and all this bullshit for nothing. What Blake said was, look, if you get your authority and you make it to like the 5-year mark, are you better positioned than someone that was leased to a carrier for 5 years? Probably. Because certainly you have a business that's bigger, okay? But buddy, like years 1 through 3, no, there's no advantage. Now this one I'll fight to the death. There is absolutely no benefit whatsoever in the first 3 years of trucking operation to having your own authority over being leased to a carrier. None. Zero. Big Dave, weren't you supposed to be the heir of Blue Ribbon? Well, what happened? Well, so Larry had a stroke in January of 24, which, is hard on a feller. And he came to a point where he didn't want to have to handle the stress anymore of the day-to-day operations of a company. He's 71 years old. And so an opportunity came along, and he presented an offer to Blake Chastain. And Blake took that offer, and I was 100% on board with that. Because while I'm real good at what I do, I'm not ready. Okay, could I have made it? Probably. But boy, it's the same conversation, right? I'm just telling you, I was not ready financially, emotionally, Um, I wasn't ready, and I couldn't do anything about the fact that Larry had medical issues. But Blake is the right guy. Oh, buddy, is he the right guy? He is. Listen, he's going to take this company places that I could have never dreamed of. Um, so I am perfectly fine with remaining the director of operations and not being the owner, because I wasn't ready, you know. And again, here, well, I talk about not doing trucking wrong. Well, it took me 3 years to clean up the mess that I made. So the decisions that I made between 2011 and 2017 prevented me from being in a position in 2024 to buy the company myself. But it's going to work out. It's going to be all right. The longer I listen to Chris and be quiet, he'll cover all the bases. DJ, I have my own truck, but I don't have an MC. Which company should I work under? Well, obviously, I'm kind of a fan of Landstar. Um, but Mercer, there's Mercer. Listen, y'all, there's probably, I mean, at least 20,000, if not 50,000, small trucking companies that would lease you in under their numbers. But you're going to do your homework, right? You're going to have to go meet people and start sniffing around and see if you smell any bad deals. A place like Landstar, it's very structured, right? Now, the other thing that I want everybody to just keep in mind. See, I have friends now that have moved into the upper echelon of Landstar, and we have conversations that would melt your brain down about the kind of money that they make. You don't have to worry about, am I going to make 350 a mile? Okay. But most of the jokers can't survive that long to even get to any of those open doors. Those doors are locked tightly. Um, Intelligent trucker, we need to have a conversation because we've talked about maybe just throwing a truck on somewhere else, just like to, so that we could speak intelligently about what it's like to own to lease a truck onto somebody other than Landstar. Um, so shoot me an email, Chris at blueribbonlogistics.com. I'd like to have a conversation about that. Because I just kind of I'd like to see what that experience is like. Larry had a guy back in the day he was selling a truck to, and a guy got canned from Landstar for some reason. And so he moved the truck to Mercer, and I think the guy's still there. And that was that's probably a decade ago. Is there a way you can lease a truck from a BCO? Oh yeah. Please don't. Oh, but oh yeah, there's some out there that'll screw you blind with when it won't even give you the dignity of a reach around. They won't even kiss you before they stick it in. So no, don't lease a truck from a BCO. listen. When I had my little epiphany moment back in 2018, and I wasn't looking for anything. I just said, hey, I made a big mistake, and it was my fault. And if you're still at Landstar, you need to get your stuff together. Now's the time, and blah blah blah. My inbox starts blowing up. Hey man, come drive my truck. Come drive. I'm like, brother, I wouldn't drive your truck if it was the last truck on earth, because I know how broke y'all are. No, no. There's very, very few. Like I could probably count on one hand people other than Blue Ribbon that I would work for. Just because, listen, I want you to think. Just step back and think about it for a minute. You have people like Larry, like my friend Steve, Ronnie. I mean, I can think of a few people that have built really solid, successful businesses that offer an opportunity to drive their truck at Landstar. And then there's a bunch of people like, hey man, if I get a second truck and a third truck, I'll make all kinds of money. And then you end up not getting paid because they didn't do it the right way for the right reasons. So driving for someone that's leased a Landstar can be very, very dangerous. Because I've picked up a few, um, that didn't get paid or something happened with the truck and they didn't have the money to fix it. My best friend back in the day, 2016, went to work for a guy who was an agent and a BCO hauling frac sand out in freaking Colorado where it was 90 below zero. But he had a big yellow W-9 and all this stuff. Well, my boy was starving to death. And so one day, and there was a problem with the brakes, some kind of issue with the brakes. And my boy was like, brother, I can't drive this truck. It's snowing out here. I can't drive this truck until we finish the brakes. And some dude walks up one day, opens the driver's door, reach in, yanks the key out of the ignition, and says, you're out of here. Okay. Now, is Landstar going to do anything about that? Nope, because your contract is not with Landstar. It's with the guy that you. So I would be very, 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 very careful and very selective about going to work for somebody at Landstar because it can go bad really, really fast. And somebody up here on TikTok asked something about why 3 years. Why 3 years and after? The statistics tell us that 95% of first-time owner-operators fail in the first 2 years. Now, when the market's good, you can fake it till you make it. But most places, or I'm sorry, most people buy the wrong truck. They buy too much truck. They don't work hard enough, and then something comes along and just wipes them out. And it could be as much as an engine failure, or it could be a U joint. I mean Rocky. Okay, Rocky that does alignments down in Florida. He had a BCO show up one day that needed alignment. Alignment's $375, and the guy had to borrow the money from Landstar. Listen, if you can't stroke a check for $375 for an alignment, you don't need to be operating a truck. Period. I mean, yesterday, I had to pay $1,150 for a road call because a brand new tie rod assembly broke. Now, fortunately, he was able to gather it up and keep it out of the fence, but the thing broke in downtown Dallas traffic. $1,150. Well, what are you going to do? Call Landstar because you don't have $1,150 to fix your truck? I mean, we just paid $2,500 in repairs on that truck. It was time for an oil change, and we did an alignment. We changed that tie rod assembly. What else we do? We put 3 U joints in it and a carrier bearing. So in the span of 2 weeks, we spent $3,600. You have to have the money. And so you have to have a very robust savings plan that gets funded before you send money home. But a bunch of these people are going out and saying, well, man, I only need $1,000 a week. I only need $1,500 a week. And so they go phone it in and they go pulling a bunch of $5 a mile loads that go 150 miles and think they're doing something when they're not. Oh, there's Rocky. It says there's been about 10 of them in the last few weeks that can't pay for an alignment. Come on now. Your broke ass don't need to be operating a truck if you can't pay for an alignment without any hesitation whatsoever. There you go. Intelligent trucker. Being a good driver is only 10% of being a motor carrier or a good owner operator. 100%. I mean, look, just because you can shift gears, which that's getting fewer and far between, just because you can bump a dock doesn't mean you can be an owner operator. You think about your experience as a company driver and all the people you hate, all the maintenance people and the regulatory people and the compliance people and the dispatchers and the fleet plan. You have to be all those people, especially if you want your own MC. You got to be all the people you hate. And you have to be good at it. You have to be as good at that job as they do. You are the load planner. You are the coordinator. You are the maintenance guy. You are the compliance guy. You're everything. And buddy, you better do it right. Because it's got to be perfect. I was talking to Tim Gentry, Gentry and Sons Trucking on YouTube. And we were just sharing our disgust with the training in this industry these days. And he said, "Man, I'm getting ready to just hire people with no experience. Just give them to me with nothing, and I'll make them right." And I agree, because I am bound by Landstar's qualification requirements that you have 1 year over the road verifiable experience in a sleeper truck, and it means nothing. It means nothing. 1 year of experience in this industry in 2025 means nothing. Can't read a map, don't know how hours of service work, can barely operate the vehicle. These people can all read, write, speak English, by the way. They're a danger on the road. They're a danger on the road because they don't know how to do anything. I don't know how they managed to get the 1 year experience without running over something or somebody. Because I try to put, because here we things are very elementary here. You got to be able to shift a manual transmission. You got to be able to plan your own route. You got to be able to plan your own brakes and plan your own deliveries and pickups, and you got to be very autonomous. And so you got to understand the lenses that I'm looking through. Because I get people, they're fired up, they want to be an owner operator, they want to be in business. Hey, I want to come and learn the program, blah, 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 blah. Dude, if you turned most of the people, even my best, if you take the best of the best that I have right now, and you had turned them loose as an owner operator, 100% failure rate. No question. 100%. The guy that's doing the $9,000 load right now and a $14,000 load next week, he failed. He had his own authority. And it was a disaster. And he came to us. And now he's a freaking superstar. Got one that just turned 25 yesterday. Buddy, you talk about somebody I'm going to make $1 billion. Because that's my perfect candidate. Young, single, 23, 24, 25 years old, with a work ethic, and will shut up and listen. That's the perfect. But the number of applications that we get, it's not as much now as it was when the market was crazy. We were getting applications from 60 and 70-year-old people because they were broke and they got to that part of their life and they went, "Damn, I've got no retirement. Let me go buy a truck." That's horrifying. Well, I don't have any money for retirement, so let me go. That's my Hail Mary, is I'll go buy a truck. That's a good way to end up broke. Intelligence. I taught at a CDL school and I've trained as OTR. Listen, if money was no object, and there's really no way to monetize it because it would cost too much. I would start a damn truck driving school that would be a minimum of 6 months, if not a year. And I would get local businesses to like give me opportunities while I'm teaching them for this 6 months or a year. 6 months would probably do it. But yeah, and listen, the training has been broken for a very, very, very long time. It was broken when I started, 97. It was awful. It was, the school was just enough to get your CDL. And the 4 weeks with the trainer was just enough to get you to be halfway competent with operating the truck. And then you're on your own. That hasn't changed, except that it's worse. And so we got a bunch of people in my comment section that can barely spell that are like, oh, we got to get rid of the people who can't speak English. I'm like, hey, pot, leave the kettle alone. You can drive a 2-inch peg up a goat's ass, and you're going to tell me about how we got to get rid of the guy that can't speak English. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a problem. So, let's see. I thought I saw something else. I don't know. It's just tough. Oh, I know what I was going to say. My daughter is 18 years old, and she received a compliment last week. And I told her, I said, listen, I want you to hang on to this forever because this is the best compliment you've ever received. She's homeschooled her whole life. Okay. She's going to the local trade school here in the county because it's free if you live here. And I've paid all those taxes. So figure we'll get something out of it. And she was approached, excuse me. She was approached by a local business owner and said, hey, I've got something cooking here. I would like for you to come work in management. So here's an 18-year-old that's had a handful of jobs, but she's never been in management, who has been offered a ground floor management opportunity. Why? Lady said, you have the emotional intelligence. I said, sister, that's the best compliment you could ever receive. It ain't because she's pretty. It ain't because she can play the fiddle really well. It's because she has the emotional intelligence necessary, and that is something that is lacking in this society. And so here she is, 18 years old. She'll be 19 in June. Has been offered an opportunity on a silver platter. And I said, sister, you better grab that and run with it. Because someone has recognized value in you that is way beyond a certificate or a diploma. They recognize that you have character. And now having run and been in management now for a few years, when I look around at people, that's the big problem. They don't have emotional intelligence. Truck one. That one feller that pretends to be the driver on his fleet, but it's actually him on a fake profile is comical. Never heard of it. Look, y'all, this business is hard. Okay? It's not easy. It's hard enough. Don't make it harder than it has to be. And there's plenty of people around that are doing what we're doing. We're trying to give good information. I see Redbeard on here. I see people that are trying to give good information, but y'all won't listen to them but you'll listen to some crackpot because you think they're going to give you a shortcut. Well, sweetheart, there are no shortcuts. There aren't. There's good practices and good principles and things like that, but there are no shortcuts. You take the shortcut, you end up lost in the desert somewhere. Well, we've gone an hour and a half. I talked about the truck show and all kinds of other stuff, so I think I'm going to shut her down. We got big plans for the podcast. Don't know exactly what they are yet, but we got plans. We got, the last year and a half has been just about trying to make this business survive with all of the problems that we had, and so we are on the other side of that, and we're growing, and so if you are interested in checking out the program, go to blueribbonlogistics.com, read all about it, all about the master class. You can go in there, you can apply. If you schedule an interview, please show up. Please show up on time. Appreciate that. If you don't know how to read a map or a watch, appreciate you not scheduling an interview. Because I'm going to be there. Like, you've scheduled it, I'm going to show up, and then I'm going to sit here like an idiot staring into my camera waiting on you to not show up. So would really appreciate you scheduling an interview and then actually coming to it. That would be awesome. So I'm going to shut her down. I'll see y'all next time.